October 19th, 2023 Planning Board meeting of the Town of Poughkeepsie. Please join me for the pledge first. Pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. For those online, we have a quorum of 5 board members at the moment. First up is Casper Kill South Road Development.
Was 20 years ago they tried to do something.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It was in the school.
All right.
Hi, good evening. My name's Karen Lobruto. I'm a senior planner with Labella Associates, here representing the applicant Ginsberg Development in their application to the planning board for the Casper Kill South Road development. I just take a brief moment to go over the basic facts of the development because I know we're going to enter into a public hearing. I think that might be helpful. So the site is approximately 11 acres. We were approved for Crown Heights Center overlay designation back in January of this year. The existing conditions are somewhat dilapidated. There's a former cement plant and some retail uses. The proposed project is a mixed-use development, would be 7 buildings, 1 grocery store, 3 mixed-use buildings with dwellings above, 3 retail service and restaurant buildings. The total non-residential square footage is 85,000 square feet approximately. There would be a total dwellings of 26 units. The action does require a lot line merger or consolidation. We would be taking approximately 2 acres from the Casper Kill Golf Course and merging it with our parcel. We require a site plan and architectural approval from this board. So the next slide we have kind of goes through some of the principal elements of the site.
Do you want to add you need to share your screen if you're going to.
Oh, I thought I was sharing my screen. Let's see.
On Zoom.
Let's try that again then. It says I'm screen sharing, but
Are you on the Zoom? Because I don't see,
I'm on the Zoom.
I don't see your name on the screen. in front of
Really?
us. Yeah.
Maybe on the wrong
Um,
link.
Maybe let me get you the agenda.
okay, sorry about that.
That's all right.
Or maybe I used the wrong code.
Yes, we got it right here.
Yeah. So. Okay. Let's see here.
There you go.
Okay.
You're on the Zoom now.
All right. Sorry about that.
That's right.
Somebody was hearing my presentation somewhere, right? Okay. All right,
There you
so
go.
let's get back to where we were. Let me scoot back up. Okay, so we just went through the basic facts of the presentation. So I'm just going to talk you through some elements of the site here. So here, if you can see my cursor, this is the grocery store. Down here at the northwest corner of the site, closer to Route 9, we have fast food with a drive-through. To the right, we have a retail facility and a restaurant facility. Here's our, Here's our main entrance here. And to the right, we have, again, residential service. There are apartments above here. Some more residential and service area with the apartments on the above, and the restaurant area below that. Up here at the top of the site, oh goodness, we have the major retailer, and again, there would be residential above that. So I've just called out for attention some of the open space. You know, that's part of the Crown Heights overlay designation, the need for approximately 10% of open space. We've got outdoor eating next to the restaurant off of Route 9. It's a tree-lined boulevard. In the middle of these two buildings, you see the plaza, which I have here in blue. And then we're providing, again, a pocket park and some additional pedestrian open space. One thing that we plan to expand upon in our upcoming submission is this open space up here on the top right of the screen, also the southeastmost corner of the site. We had previously talked about this as a tiered seating area, and it kind of didn't get a lot of movement over time, but we've kind of reworked it, and so we're going to enhance that for the next submission. They're going to be about 2-foot seating walls, and they'll essentially overlook the adjoining golf course. So we think that will be a nice amenity for the residences and other visitors to the site. Okay, so this just kind of goes through these details. This is the plaza here between these two buildings. There's bike parking, light poles, benches. There's trash cans, stamped concrete pavers, planter boxes. Here we have this southeast open area I was talking about. So this is the design as it stands today, but in the future, as part of our upcoming submission, these walls will be reduced to 2 feet seating walls. I just note that there's snow storage up, closer to the, a little bit further north that's proposed. We'll move these picnic tables that you see so that there's not conflict there. And so this is located south of D4, which has residences. Again, we have the outdoor eating, which is west of D3. So this is right off of Route 9. This is right by the tree-lined boulevard. As you enter, it's got tables. So one of the things that we need to clarify here is whether the board has the power, I suppose, to waive the 10% requirement so that we can come in with approximately 7.1% once we add on this open area at the southeast corner, or if we actually need an area variance from the Zoning Board of Appeals. So that's one thing we'd like to get confirmation on. And then I just thought I'd run through some of the comments that we've heard on our application most recently. Lots of questions about the access lanes, and we are joined by our traffic engineer, Phil Greeley from Colliers Engineering today for specific questions on that. But lots of questions on the access lanes and what was studied and what's proposed. And in general, we're still undergoing coordination with DOT, and they will weigh in on that and direct us. Pedestrian crosswalk on Route 9, again, that's something that DOT has full voice on. We are pending, that decision hasn't been made yet. Snow storage in the Route 9 right-of-way, same story. Possible traffic signal pole relocation, should there be 3 access lanes or not. The refuse enclosure on Route 9, the refuse enclosure within the site close to Route 9, we know was a question early on. We've presented as part of our recent submission evergreen landscaping and a masonry enclosure. This was a part of the site plan that was discussed at great length amongst the town staff, our staff, and the county staff. And we have come to the place where we think this is the only place we can make it work. So we're trying to make it work for the site, and we're looking for your thoughts on that today. There was concerns about the queuing around the fast food at building D2, the drive-through, and whether it might propose congestion on Route 9. In talking with town staff, we've decided to pursue a one-way in this area where the drive aisle runs in a north-south direction. We would change that from two-way to one-way, which we think will resolve that situation. Snow storage, should we not have sufficient snow storage on site, we propose that we have it removed. We talked again with town staff about this and understand that similar removal notes have been added to plans as other projects. So this is the suggested language, snow removal within 3 days of the end of snowfall. We're working to provide a loading area for the pump station. We understand the concerns there, and we're confident that we can make that work. Perhaps not in exactly the same location, but in a location that's suitable. And for the sewer, we are getting to work on the downstream capacity analysis. So that's all I have for now.
Okay, thank you for the overview. Quite a few changes have come along. Kristen?
Thank you to the applicant for sort of outlining many of the things I was going to get into. So the application is on this evening for a public hearing, seeker review for type 1 action, lot line revision review, site plan review, and architectural review. There were a couple of notes about related to seeker in terms of the blasting management plan. The applicant has included or embedded notes within the plan set. I did keep the language there just because it can be extensive, and I don't want it to catch the applicant off guard. And I just, although it's acknowledged, I want, the applicant to be aware that that is also its own lift in terms of a workload and will require additional review by town staff. Not necessarily planning, but building department, so you may want to start that coordination consultation. Also, as was mentioned, DOT consultation is ongoing. That consultation also will include or continue to include conversations with our town traffic consultant, JMC, and also planning staff. There are sort of standard notes for lot line revision review that are still included. As was mentioned, that is part of the application process. There were many comments when we first received this submission and application. We think that the applicant has been responsive. We've been working with the county and the applicant over the last many months to kind of get to the submission as it is proposed currently. That said, we do still have a number of comments to which the applicant obviously addressed or identified, acknowledged this evening already. But yes, most notably, we do want to get clear direction about the open space requirement and that percentage. Unfortunately, I didn't have a chance to connect with our zoning administrator, but I, believe that is related to the area in bulk table and analysis. I don't think that it's a design requirement, but I would have to confirm, and we will provide clear direction about that. That said, I do appreciate the update about the additional improvements to factor into your open space. That said, I do think that the planning board may want to have a discussion, or they may ask more questions about what those amenities really are and who they're serving. Other than that, I know that we had already, as recent as a day or two ago, gone through a number of the planning related comments, so we're just continuing to plug along. And at this point, staff is recommending that the board open the public hearing, hear any public comment, adjourn the public hearing, and defer action with comments. I will point out that unfortunately our traffic engineer could not make the meeting this evening, but we had encouraged the applicant to coordinate with them directly about their comments. So I believe that's underway and or will be prior to their next submission, which could be as soon as Monday for the November meeting. But I do strongly encourage that. Staff is also going to note that we hadn't seen any color renderings or renderings really about any of the proposed buildings. So if you might have some detail you'd like to share, I know the board is anxious to kind of get a feel for what the site feels like, not only from Route 9, but internally as well. I'll leave it there.
Yeah, that's a good point, Kristen. We got, don't have it clear in my mind how many stories each building is at this point even.
2 stories.
They're all 2 stories mainly?
Well, either one
except
or
for the
two.
grocery stores
1 or
and-
2.
and yes, gotcha. Okay.
Oh, one other item related to the fast food establishment. Staff did meet with Arlington Fire Department to go over the proposal in terms of emergency access. At this point, I believe that they are fully satisfied with what is proposed. I also know that Arlington Fire Department is currently on the Zoom call, so, if they had additional comments, they should feel free to share. But we're just continuing to plug along otherwise.
All right, great. Glad sounds like you're meeting with all the right people and getting things moving forward. We check with Andy. Do you have any,
Sure.
you have a few comments?
Yeah. So yeah, I agree. I think most of my comments have already been kind of brought up. I will say that we did have an offline meeting with the applicant, yesterday, where we talked about a couple of my concerns. The pump station came up. I think we talked about the location and possibly moving it to a different location where it may be a little more out of the way, maybe less obtrusive. I saw a sketch from Tom that I thought would be a good spot for it, kind of more closer to the rear of the grocery store. We also, we mentioned and talked about the fast food queuing issue. I think making that lane to the west of D2 one way to the northbound, which would force queuing to the south into the site would be a good way to avoid the queuing issue. But of course, we'll have the traffic engineers review that. Just a couple other things that we had talked about in our comment letter. It did encourage them to talk to the building department to make sure that EV charging ADA accessible requirements are being met. I also encouraged them, speaking of fire department, to make sure that the access widths are acceptable to the fire department in all locations, particularly along the south side of the site, just to make sure that there's no problems there. As we mentioned, we're going to have the sewer connection, utilizing an existing spare force main. Seems like a good idea, but some coordination with the health department will be needed to determine testing requirements and any kind of connection requirements that may be necessary to make sure that works. We're also looking for some calculations to verify the size of the force main is appropriate based on the size of the pump station proposed. And then the only other thing is the amount of material that's being cut out of the site will need to be looked at carefully. We want to make sure that with that much material coming off, we want to know where that material is going and make sure that wherever it's going, that it's being managed appropriately in terms of erosion sediment controls, and if necessary, speedies coverage is provided where that material is being delivered. So that pretty much covers it.
All right, thanks, Andy. Yeah, big project, a lot of details to work through. Is there, let's see, Mark, you said Mark was not available tonight.
Mark's not on tonight.
Okay, yeah, but you have his letter on traffic. Okay. When do you think you'll be coming back to submit trying to get back here for November or December, do you think?
At this point, we're hoping to submit on Monday.
Okay, just want to check that out. All right, at this point, I move we open the public hearing.
Second.
Moved and seconded, called to question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Is there anyone in the audience here that wishes to speak on this project?
Actually, guys, if you wouldn't mind stepping down or backing away from there in case anyone wants to come up to the microphones, they can.
Maybe not. Anyone on the Zoom call wish to comment on the Casper Hill project? Seeing none in the room. And there will be other opportunities, so I move we adjourn the public hearing to November, what's the November date?
16th.
November 16th, 2023.
Second.
Moved and seconded, called to question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. All right, let's go around the board for comments. I'll start with Peter.
I'm glad to see that you're looking at an option for snow storage to haul it off-site if necessary, because it doesn't appear that the snow storage that you have depicted on the site plan will be adequate. So I'm glad at least you're keeping that. You had a question about waiving the 10% requirement.
That's correct, not in its entirety. Right now, we're at 5 5% more or less, and we're trying to increase that to 7% more or less.
Do you
But
want to, since we have our board attorney here, maybe she could respond to you right now.
I actually have to look and talk with Chrissy about whether it's a waiver that this board grants or a variance that the ZBA would require.
Okay.
So we will hopefully get back to you shortly, but it's a
Okay.
coordination with Chrissy as well.
Okay, great, thanks. From the beginning, I've been concerned about the queuing at the exit onto South Road. And based on our letter we received from our traffic consultant, he has a lot of concerns too. There are a lot of gray areas there. And I'm glad that before the next time we meet, you'll have all those issues, those questions straightened out. Also remember to keep in mind, or our consultant should, and so should yours, we have an application for a very high volume car wash, very close to this, so that when you complete the study, be certain that you include that additional activity, which would be just down the road from this site. I'd like to ask the town engineer, the letter that we received referenced a geotechnical report. I just want to make sure that our town engineer had a copy of that report and that he has reviewed it.
I do. I have it. No concerns.
No concerns, okay, great.
Great.
There's been a question about the refuse enclosure near Route 9. And on the landscaping, you reference, you're gonna use junipers to enclose that, which I think would be fine. But I think you have to stipulate the size of the junipers to be certain that they are mature enough so that when they're planted, that they will do the job. And that we don't have to wait 8 or 10 years before they are big enough to do the job.
Yep.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Thanks, Peter. Nicole?
Are you going to continue with a bus stop at this location?
I should have added that to my list of things we have to coordinate with DOT on. But yes, that is the intention, should they permit it.
Okay. You had mentioned earlier about putting some seating closer to the golf course. Would you also run some type of walkway there as well?
So there is an existing cart path
Okay.
in that location that is not proposed to be removed, so there will be some access through that.
So would there be a walkway or no?
In the form of this existing path, yes.
Okay.
That connects through into the golf course.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. That's all I have. Thank you.
Great. Rocco?
Okay, a couple of things. One is that I want to echo what Peter said about the snow storage, because in case the DOT does not approve the Route 9 right-of-way to be used for snow storage, you really haven't identified any place. And then I'm very concerned about especially the residential area up there where you say that you'll get rid of snow within 3 days. They'll be socked in, assuming we even have any snow anymore, but I mean, if we do, it could cause a serious issue.
Don't jinx it, Rocco.
I won't, okay. If I'm not mistaken, the last time you were here, I asked, since you have identified yourself as being the owner of the rest of the property there, and that there were running trails, walkways over there, and I think they should still be there unless they've been overgrown, because I used to run on those trails years ago.
Big jogging path. around.
Yeah, the jogging path. The only reason I'm asking is that that would go into my thinking of whether or not it could be used for the green area, or for the use for the public use for the
Open space.
the open areas for the people there. But you have to provide access there. And then the other issue with that is that, you can say yes now, but we'd have to have a way to make sure that that it remains available just in case your future plans involve something else with that amount of land back there, and then all of a sudden, poof, they go away. So, you know, oh, well, which can happen.
No,
I
poof
mean,
can
you know,
happen.
you may have other plans for that which you don't, may not to come to fruition for several years, but in case they do. So those are two of the things that do concern me. But based on what Nicole said, I mean, you said you have a cart path going up there. I would think that if you want to include that as part of it, it's an open area for the residents. In my mind, it's got to be more than just, I mean, it has to be something that is permanent and not just a cart path, a well-worn path that people.
It's currently asphalt. It's an asphalt, golf cart path that connects into the paths on the site, which ultimately tie into these walking trails that you're referencing. So there is
Okay,
a
didn't. Okay, you didn't mention that
There's a couple of paths
before.
that go to like an old.
Right, but it's got to be
Shared.
maintained and it's got to be identified, et cetera.
While
of thing,
we're
okay.
on that topic, excuse me one second. The only thing I'd caution though is, being a golfer, we don't want people getting too close to the golf course. So if you're gonna have access to that, you also have to have some kind of controls. I like the idea of it being an expansion, but there's also have to be controls so people don't wander onto a fairway.
Where, as the owners of the golf course, we're very aware of that, and safety is a paramount concern, because you got pedestrians on a golf course, you're subject to flying golf balls.
Yeah.
That's not good. So while we're very open to allowing access for the residents of this development to use the golf course property, we just have to figure out how to do it consistently with keeping them safe.
Okay, those are my comments for now. Thank you, Carl.
All right, thanks, Rocco. Ahmad?
Most of the things have been addressed and talked about. I mean, interested to see how the rendering would look like and how that whole project would project itself.
Yeah, we've just been looking at the
Yeah.
flat plan for a few meetings now, so if you got. Steve?
Quite aggressive plan. I wish you the best of luck. You got a lot of stuff to attack, and we're looking forward to seeing you coming back again.
And my 2 cents, let's see, I just wanted to, you think you still have to do blasting based on the geotech, or?
Yes.
Okay, so that's, I guess there's no houses in the immediate area, maybe the old Fort Homestead is on the other side of Ford. That's something to be careful, watch out for. And
It's a pretty good distance away, but yes, it'll have to
Ford
be.
as well.
And the town's protocol for blasting is stringent, shall we
Yeah.
say. So, we'll be complying with that, but unfortunately, the amount of and depth of rock on the site,
yeah,
there's no other way
it's
around.
a hill to move,
Yeah.
similar to the hill they moved to make, Olive Garden there. It's part of that same hill, similar hill. Anyway, inch of the building heights, I agree with Peter, shielding the trash with the evergreens is good, as long as it's big enough, any other kind of plantings, flowers or something. But just so it's blending in more than standing right out. It's set back from the road quite a bit, so that's a good plus. And we talked about the elevations, architecture, if you have any keys on that. And I wanted to know, I couldn't make out on the plans exactly what you're putting between, I think it's D5 and D6, that for kind of amenities, you sketched in something there. What is that?
Yeah, so the PowerPoint went through that a little bit. There are planter boxes, there's bike parking there,
benches,
Benches I saw.
benches, yep.
Okay.
small trash receptacles.
Oh, that's what it was, trash planter, okay. All right.
I do want to just point out as well, because the CHCO zoning district, it's a little quirky in that it has its own sort of set of or some definition for open space, and that it includes squares, mini parks, athletic fields, commons, promenades, or pedestrian plazas with amenities such as benches, landscaping, natural walking trails, and may include hardscaping, amenities, and structures which are intended for the use of the general public's lighting, special paving, pavers, artwork, structures such as having a skating rink, gazebo, pergola, amphitheater, it goes on. But, you know, we're not necessarily talking about playground equipment but
some amenities, yes.
so really the question is, you know, you as the board, are you satisfied with what is being proposed or along those lines as been presented tonight?
I think it depends on what we see, what you do with the southeast section that you're planning to construct, the tiered seating. You know, if you can give us a fair depiction of what that's going to look like, would go a long way, I think, to.
I mean, just a little snippet we saw in the presentation looked nice. But, and then there's, last thing about open space, I guess, you talked about a pocket park here. I don't know what kind of things you were thinking of for in there, just trees and
I think it's benches and trees.
benches and trees. And then what we have on the plans right now, toward the back right of the grocery store is parking, but you showed possible open space there. Is that, you think you're overparked and need?
I'm
and
sorry,
could-
I didn't hear the beginning of that.
Possible open space in the back right of the grocery store?
I believe that's the slope that's.
It's
the
showing
rock that you're
parking.
removing.
I see parking here, but on your presentation, your sketch, I saw open space labeled there, so on one of the first sketches. Maybe it was just the label for the one next to it.
Oh, it was the label, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I was
I didn't
pointing
see
out we have kind of like an ample open area in front of the D4, which is the major retailer with the apartments above.
Yep,
And so it was just,
okay.
that was the call
So-
out.
So it's all parking as depicted then along the plans. All right, that's all I have then today.
I move the planning board defer further action on this application and direct the applicant to respond to comments in the writing of the planning department and those received from town departments and agencies included but not limited to the following 1 through 11.
Any other? Second.
And let's see.
I usually wait because there's always
Yeah.
additions.
Well, we have 11 as planning board comments, so that includes what
Okay.
Peter said about the trees and the size of the trees and et cetera. So moved
All
and
right,
seconded.
second.
Moved and seconded. Called to question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Good luck. Looking forward to you next month and
Thank you,
continue
everyone.
the process. Okay, next up is Salt Point Center.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Jeff Kane. How are you?
Hey, Jeff.
Joined here with by Ken, and is Jacob on the line? I didn't,
I don't see him, Jeff.
right, okay, right. So, maybe if I can ask Ken if he can share his screen. That's appropriate, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sounds good. Give us a,
All right, thank you.
what's been
So,
progressing.
while Ken's doing that, just kind of as a brief update, I'll say that the Salt Point Center project, there aren't a whole lot of changes that we've made since the last time we were here, but there's been a lot of detail added. We've been working through any of the engineering and planning questions that have been raised. We've certainly received more comments, and we're working our way through to address them. We made good progress, I think, on the aquatic resources permit, the special permit for multifamily housing, and clarifying the building heights and the need for variances, and working. Sorry. Right, and we're working now on the floodplain study. Updating the DOT drawings, the SWIP, and other engineering issues again that have been raised. We know that the site isn't, the plans aren't complete, but it was important for us to continue to work in concert with you and to get your comments as we go along, so we're not getting too far ahead of what the board wants and what the board is thinking as we proceed. So we appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight. The plan that Ken has up here is really the kind of the overall plan, and a couple of points we wanted to really kind of make with this plan. One is you can see the kind of those hatched areas, the red hatched areas, and those are the dedicated open space areas. And one really important thing about the one on the top of the screen there, and that's in the floodplain, is working with Carol Knapp. We've been able to revise the grading, revise the disturbance net area to keep the tree line as it exists really throughout that whole field. And then the plan is to remove this topsoil, conduct whatever excavation we're gonna conduct, and then replace that topsoil back up with its current seed mix and rhizomes, replace that back onto the site here, and in fact look to supplement that with additional seed mixes, including, I think, which I thought was just a great idea, an increased milkweed supply for the threatened monarch butterfly. So there's a real opportunity here to really, I think, improve the habitat based on some of what's being proposed here. So I think that's a nice improvement on the plan as a result of I think of how this process is going. And then on the right, you can see the path up the hill to the rail trail. Again, discussions are ongoing with county DPW about how to manage that, and then some interior amenity areas as well. And we're working to again detail those out and show you what's going to be proposed in those areas. One thing we do want to talk about at some point this evening, we don't need to necessarily talk about it right this second, but we can when I get to it, is the request to or the suggestion that we light the path going up to the rail trail. I'll remark that entire rail trail is not lit, and we're not convinced it makes sense to light this connector here. We think it might lead to more of an opportunity for mischief if that's lighter than not. So we think that it makes sense to leave that like the rest of the rail trail as well. But again, we can discuss that as we get to the board's comments. One other thing, Ken, before we go, I will say that, looking at the zoning summary table here, and, planners, you, me, we live in this world of very specific definitions, and words have a very specific meaning. And what I think happened in a couple of places in our documents, the words retail and commercial got used interchangeably, particularly in the architectural plans. But just to be clear, we understand the limitation on how much retail there can be at this part of the overall commercial. We're going to update the plans appropriately. Much of the world is used to retail, including restaurants, including really anything you buy, and that's just needs to be reflected in the architectural floor plans. And so, sorry for that confusion. But that'll be corrected. So, and then the other thing I think that was was particularly called out, that maybe get some feedback from the board, is the location of the EV charging. We chose this area in the center of the site, something that isn't like those weren't the prime places right in front of any one particular building, but tried to make them accessible to really all the users. I had a long discussion with county planning about that actually at our meeting, and they actually came around and understood why we chose those spaces. We'll, again, happy to relocate them as it may make sense to the board, but we'd like to spend a couple of minutes at the appropriate time and talk about where the board thinks those are appropriate if it's not in this particular location here.
All right.
And I think those are the highlights that we wanted to raise and talk about, but we're looking forward to your additional comments as we move forward on this.
Great, thanks, Jeff. Let's go to Eric.
Sure.
To-
This will be the first time this application is up for a public hearing. It was revised back in August of 2022 and circulated for the planning board lead agency, and there's been no objection. So the board is now the lead agency. I'd agree with Jeff, there's been a lot of progress on many of the elements discussed with staff and with the planning board. And yeah, he correctly identified some areas that need additional work, but it's a welcome return to discuss where to go from here. As far as the uses, that was one of the central issues we looked at, and I'm glad to hear that that'll be clarified.
Yeah, that's-
Moving forward. And that way, we and the consultants can look at it and the board can, discuss that further the next time. Similarly with EV chargers, the issue was not the central, whether the central location was good or not, but really whether it would be a useful discussion whether the board was interested in other locations at the site as well, or if that's sufficient where it is. Another point, since the staff review went to the board, it occurred to me that something that got discussed some offline but not in public, 21093, open space preservation does provide for all applications with a residential component to have a dedication of land for public parkland or a fee in lieu of. And I don't recall that we've had that public discussion yet. There was a lot of discussion about private amenities for the residents, but there has not been a discussion about a dedication to the town of Poughkeepsie for public parkland or a fee. So that's just one distinction I wanted to make, and the board would be invited to have that discussion, because if there is a proposal for suitable land, then it would need to be referred to the town board
Right.
and to the recreation department, which will take some time. So it would be good to have that discussion, at least conceptually tonight. Other than that, there's a number of other comments. And I think with that, then on the architecture, the renderings, the board, there's been a lot of positive reaction to the way the buildings look. Staff was suggesting that the board might want to get street level renderings, because we've seen the individual buildings, but we haven't seen how they look on the site in
Right.
context.
And we know they're raised up a couple feet there.
So with that, I'll turn it over to the board, to
Right.
other consultants for discussion. I
Yep.
don't know if Carol is here. I know Andy
She's
is.
on, yeah, Andy
Yeah.
and Carol are both on. I just will say, yeah, that was, remind Jeff, that was one of the key things, the distribution of retail versus commercial, because that affects the traffic study, all the parking, all that. So make sure that's ironed out so that those reports represent it correctly. Andy?
Understood.
Sure. Again, I think a lot of the issues that I have been touched upon. We are still waiting for a formal stormwater pollution prevention plan. We'll be looking very closely at how those stormwater management practices interact with the floodplain, make sure they still function during bigger storm events. We did see, I did see the flood letter from Alton Knapp's office. We are just looking for a little bit more information than what he provided, and we've been talking about it all along. So I think I think the applicant is aware of what we're looking for there.
Yep.
They did quite a bit of work on the lighting plan. I think it's in pretty good shape. There is a note in my letter that there are a couple areas at the site entrances where the lighting levels exceed the allowable limit at the property line. But it's for crosswalks, which it would be appropriate to eliminate those crosswalks. So we just need to figure out if the board can waive that, or if a formal variance will be required for those lighting levels at those locations. And finally, something that was brought to my attention in my admittedly missed it. There's a sewer line that crosses, kind of cuts the corner through the property along South Point Turnpike. That doesn't apparently have an existing sewer easement. We'll need an easement for that. And we'll need to look at how we can keep any permanent features, structures outside of that easement for any future access. So.
If I may, real quick on that subject, we are fully aware, we're actually looking at just potentially shifting the building just a few feet back and to the right to keep everything clear of that sewer line that's there now.
That's great. That would be the best thing. Okay.
Which
That's all I
building,
have.
which building is that, Ken?
2.
2?
Building
That would
two.
be building 2, which will help alleviate some of the concern that people had about the potential height of the building as it relates to Salt Point there. So it'll put a little further back to give a little more space between the two and not feel as tall to the road potentially.
Okay, great. But we still would like to see the elevation from the road. All right, Carol, thanks for.
Yes, I'm here. Basically, Jeff had touched upon earlier this evening, just a lot of the issues that were been discussed with with our August letter. Within the floodplain, there's been a lot of grading modifications to within the area of disturbance. They're now staying outside of all the tree line and have committed to basically as close of a restoration of the existing conditions of the floodplain grassland as possible, including a maintenance schedule for routine mowing to prevent it from eventually evolving to a woodland and to keep it as an open grassland, and also to eliminate a lot of the lawn, maintained lawn that was proposed originally around the nature trail. A couple of notes regarding mitigation need to be added regarding the landing turtle and the Indiana bat, but that's all, we've discussed that. That's not an issue. Yes, an aquatic resource permit is required, but we're under, I think it's 4/10 of an acre, and it's buffer area only, so that looks good. And they're still kind of looking through some of the options that we offered regarding, definitely regarding the milkweed, but community garden and a couple other things. So they're really in good shape as far as aquatic resources and endangered species, protected species. So looking good.
All right, thanks, Carol, and thanks, guys, for working with Carol on getting that, saving the trees, for example. That's a good goal as well. Do you think you'll be able to submit for November, or is that going to be December?
December.
December, okay, just clarify that.
November is pretty aspirational, but we're not gonna make it.
That's Monday, so. I didn't think so. All right, at this point, I'll move, we open the public hearing.
Second.
Moved and seconded, called to question, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Is there anyone in the room here who wishes to speak on this project? Come up forward. Just state your name and we have our 3-minute timer.
Hello, Nick Senerani, Cryweld Corporation, 253 Innes Avenue. So our concerns are with the roundabout and whether or not the roundabout is going to stay in the existing footprint of the existing intersection, or will additional land be needed for that, since we're pretty tight where we are already. There's also, I saw a proposed crosswalk which would come across right into our dock space and garage doors. So that would be unsafe since we move trucks and heavy equipment all through there. So that's primarily our concerns.
Okay,
So we just don't want to lose any land on the roundabout.
sounds good. I'll take a look at that as they design it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anyone else in the room here? Anyone on Zoom that wishes to comment on this project?
There There's a few
For
people
Salt
I
Point.
see on Zoom, so if you're wishing to speak on this project, you can unmute yourself. No? Raise your hand, wave, nothing. Okay, I think we're good.
All right. I move we adjourn the public hearing to December, what's the date?
21st.
December 21st, 2023.
Second.
Moved and seconded, called to question, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Go around the room for comments. Just had a comment on the roundabout. You know, we do have a preliminary layout, and it does not look like it takes any land there, but we have to look at that.
I think Phil Greeley is still on for the applicant. Do you want to just ask him?
Sure.
I don't know to what.
Phil, you there?
Yes,
Do-
good
do you know-
evening.
Do you know if that encroaches upon the cryo-weld land?
No, the roundabout will be within the existing state right-of-way and/or lands from our property that we're dedicating to the state. We will not be using any other private lands. Relative to the question about the sidewalk, those details will be fine-tuned. We're in the process of waiting for a final survey. We're aware of that driveway that was referenced and the vehicular movements there, and that'll be taken into account with the final design to accommodate the pedestrians safely.
Okay. Yeah, I know the DOT likes to put the crosswalks on all the legs, but I'm not sure.
Yes,
It makes
Understood.
total sense here, some of to where they're going.
Agreed.
Phil, when you
Right.
said the roundabout will be within the state of right-of-way, were you making a distinction between the roundabout and the sidewalks associated with it?
All of the appurtenances associated with the roundabout will have to be within the state right-of-way. And part of the land that we're dedicating to the state, which is still being fine-tuned, the reason for the dedication or the extra dedication is to accommodate those sidewalk areas within the state right-of-way.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks for clarifying, Phil. All right, as we go around the board, I think the county had some comments on various things, including architecture, so if you have any thoughts on that as we go around, please speak up. I'll start with Nicole this time.
I think a lot of things have already been covered. You're still overparked. I don't know if that's something that everyone's okay with or not. If you do have that restaurant and if you do have some of those retail stores, then maybe you won't be overparked. As far as those EV charging stations are concerned, I understand that some board members and/or consultants were interested in possibly having some closer to each building. However, I do like the way you have it kind of centrally located, especially because not everyone has an electrical vehicle at this point. And I'm sure that if that changes, you could always make changes to the site down the road.
Yeah.
You're still proposing the bus stop, correct?
Yes, we'll still have a bus stop.
Okay. Do you currently have bike racks proposed for that site?
I don't know that they show on the plans right now, but clearly we're gonna have bike racks throughout at each of the buildings, so they'll be used by both the residents and any other visitors.
Okay. All right. What else? Yeah, I think that's it. The only other thing would be amenities. We would just be interested to see what other things you guys come up with as far as amenities were concerned. Other than that, I think that's it.
All right, thanks, Nicole. Yeah, amenities there is some open space there next to building 3, I think. Rocco?
Okay, just to ask a little bit more about the EV charging stations. If I see that, is this what you're proposing? Let's see, 5, 9, 11 of them? Is that-
Yes.
Okay, so now what I was gonna ask is that, given that there's a big push, whether or not it occurs, I don't wanna get into the politics of that or not, but if there's going to be a large increase that's in EVs over time, have you considered doing at least some infrastructure work to allow for future wiring for additional EVs throughout to the site?
So the reason we chose kind of the location of where it is it is the opportune location that satisfies the requirements now, sets forth a current area, and it's the hardest to get to if we were to to add on in the future, to your point, Rocco. As we move to potentially needing further spaces, they would be much closer to the building in areas that are green space where we can then come off, or on the backside, on the northern, the western portion of the lot, which we also looked at when we talked to the county. Those are easy to run in the landscaped areas where we don't have to tear up the parking lots and go through that. That's why we located them there, with the idea that if there was the need in the future, that upper lot might have the next phase of parking for EV.
Okay, I mean, it seems like a reasonable place for the EV charging in the stations in my mind, and I can see, and thank you for further explaining why you put them there. That makes more sense now even, but, okay. So as long as you think that you can get additional EV charging stations easily, okay, that makes sense. As far as the walkway to the Dutchess County Rail Trail, I don't think it should be lit. That's just my own opinion. Because I tend to agree that it could add to more mischief. I had a question about with the improvements in the topography there. Will that raise the land up enough to take some of it out of the floodplain?
Yes, that's the idea, that the entire area where we have the main portion of the site is raised up out of the floodplain area.
Okay.
And by digging into the area that Carol described down below, we're removing a equal amount of material out of that area, so there's technically no net change in volumetric to the water in there, basically for the floodplain capacity in that area. So we're effectively, and as Andy, I see shaking his head, the details of that is with Alton and some of the other things, but for all effective purposes, that's what the idea is, that we have little to no effect on the overall floodplain in that area.
Okay, because my concern would be that if that is not taken out of the floodplain and it is dedicated to the town, then we'd be stuck with it in the floodplain, which I wouldn't, wouldn't make any sense.
It's not going to be dedicated.
I'm not sure I'm not sure you guys are interested in dedicating any, and I'm not sure the town is.
The town's
Well,
not.
I thought he mentioned something like that, no?
Eric said.
I just raised the question.
All right, well,
Because it hasn't
okay.
been discussed yet, and there's a chart in the new submittal that deals both with the public dedication of land and then separately
Okay.
with the amenities. And so I raised the question.
All right, so I made a silly point that, as long as it's out of the floodplain, if something like that ever comes to pass, I'd be in favor of that. Otherwise, I wouldn't be in favor of it.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
And,
I think I'm echoing some of the comments on the amenities. We'll be interested to see what your solution for that. The other part is, agree with the proposal of not lighting the path to the walkway. It is the wise thing to do, since no access to the walkway anyway during the night.
Yeah, the walkway doesn't have lights either. so-
Right.
So it's-
And lastly, I was kind of surprised by that the buildings look higher than the street, so
Yeah,
I'm
that's because
interested
they
to
have
see how that look.
Yeah, I mean, if you know where it is now, the the barn or whatever the house there, it's higher than the thing's going to be overall, but the whole thing's gonna be elevated a little bit,
Mm.
so.
So it's like building another hell?
Yeah, knocking that hill down a little bit, raising it up in another spot, so it's kind of evens out, but
That's
we want
all
to
I
see
have.
how it looks from the road. Stephen?
No other comment, although I do agree with the previous two comments that I also prefer to have no lighting.
All right, thank you, and Peter?
The county made a couple of comments that I think are worth noting. One is under flooding concerns. There are two elements to consider in ensuring that flood conditions are not worsened by the project. The first is maintaining or increasing the floodwater storage capacity of the site. The second is ensuring that a low water velocity is maintained. That's a very, very important point, and I think it's something we have to keep our eyes on. Particularly, I'm sure our town engineer is keeping an eye on that, but there's no point in managing water if it's just gonna rush by.
Right, that's why we want to see a good floodplain analysis for this.
Yeah, Ken, are you gonna have that for us before the next submittal? Because we've kind of wanted to look at that for a while. I know the county's also been asking for it for a while, so.
Yeah.
Is that?
So
Yeah.
we have discussion with Alton about when we can get that together from him in its entirety. Now that he has some of these additional comments, he's just been out of commission for getting that completed for us. But that's the plan. If it makes sense and it would appease the board and everybody, we can also do an online discussion in between as well with Alton and staff to kind of walk through where he's at, thoughts, how he has walked through that, so that when that submission does come in for the December meeting, or for the November meeting, excuse me. No, December, sorry. Getting myself turned around on months here. For the December meeting, then you've had a chance to at least, voice any additional concerns so we can make sure they're all included in that.
Yeah, that might be a good idea, have Andy and Carol and
Yeah, no, I mean, I
Staff
think that would
take a look-
help,
take a look
but
at
we
it.
certainly do want to see the actual, like, the report and the written
Yes.
materials and have a chance to look at that in quite a bit of
I mean,
detail.
From what we
so.
understand, that, the flood capacity will be increased, so that'll help downstream potentially, but not if it's rushing by too fast.
Let's not lose sight,
Yep.
no pun intended, of the fact that we have a.
So actually, sorry, I was gonna say, Peter, I think what's critical with the floodplain is that we can neither increase nor decrease the flows, because if you decrease flows, then you're backing up, upstream. If you're increasing flows, then you have the potential for further impact downstream. So it's a balance to make sure that the water passes through at the same rate. And you're talking about low flows, and my assumption is that we're talking about just the stream bed as it flows right now. I think what's important to understand is because we again pulled the disturbance back further away from the stream bed, we're now having certainly have no impact on low flows of the stream in non-flood situations.
Okay, I'm just saying that we want to pay, since we have a floodway and a floodplain, we want to pay very close attention to your remedy and be certain
Absolutely.
that it's effective. The second issue that the county addressed was architecture. Proposed buildings have overly complex facades that rely on constant in and out articulation of materials change. I mean, a flat roof is often the better choice for larger buildings. I couldn't disagree more. If you look at what Eastdale did, when they came in, they had like large, lengthy, monolithic roofs. We suggested breaking them up to make them to humanize them. And Mr. Palladino, your architect, did a terrific job. Dormers and other design features to break those buildings up and make them more attractive. And I think, the results they speak for themselves.
Right.
So with regard to the county's concerns for the architecture and design, I really don't have any problem with the architecture. I think it really adds to the project. And I think flat roofs, because we don't permit, rooftop units, I'm pretty happy with the architecture the way it is. And I'm not in favor of converting them to a flat roof concept.
Yeah, no.
Thanks, Peter. I'll say the same thought. I read the article the county pointed to, and I could see where it could be along a main street kind of thing, but this is not a main street area exactly.
It's not.
I would say it is. It's designated as a center, but the way it's coming together, I like the way it looks as well. My other 2 cents, we talked about the county did mention possibly some trees along Salt Point Turnpike, so maybe that's, something good to work into the plan. Talked about the EVs. The trail is not lit at night, so no point to have the path lit either. And I guess my only other question is what your thoughts are on activities do you think a playground is possible? There's that land next to building 3 now.
Yeah.
Is something, so whether it's a community garden that Carol talked about or somewhere, or playground, there's quite a few units at this site for residential, so I assume.
So I can just give you a couple quick things that we spoke about yesterday with the applicant. We are looking at a playground in that area. We also are looking at more of an outdoor, like pergola area that has a sitting area for the community to kind of congregate outdoors. We also are looking at using a portion thereof that we have to talk to Carol about down into the floodplain area as a community garden for the residents as well. So we'll get it all outlined and detailed for everyone so that they can see it in the next iteration that comes to the planning board.
Thanks, Ken, terrific. I think that will satisfy my concerns.
Thank you.
I move the planning board determine that this application is incomplete, defer action on this application, and direct the applicant to respond in writing to comments of the planning board and those received from town departments and agencies included but not limited to the following 1 through 17.
Anything else? That's it, all right. A second.
Moved and seconded, called to question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. All right, thanks, guys. We'll see you in December.
Thank you.
It's coming along nicely.
Jeff, could you just be sure the question about the dedication of parkland is not in the staff comments? Could you just make sure to address that in the response?
Absolutely. We'll address that when we next submit.
Thank you.
All right, next up is Metro Roofing Supply.
Good evening. I'm going to go a little old school here with the traditional mounted plan.
Then we can see that.
My name is Neil Sander. I'm with Independence Engineering. I'm the engineer of record for this application. Just to refresh your memory, Metro Roofing Supply is a division of SRS Distribution that is trying to operate a roofing wholesale supply company out of an existing building on Salt Point Turnpike. We had a pre-application meeting with the town in August of '22. There was some miscommunication on my end as far as what we needed to do to get the place open. Eventually they opened, got fined, got a violation for operating without a special use. So we've applied to the planning board to get that special use approved. This is our second hearing. We were here in June. And I believe at this point we've addressed most of the professional comments. I know there's still a couple of outstanding questions. I spoke with Mr. Learn today about the Transportation Corporation.
Yeah.
We were able to find the maintenance agreements in the town's files for the water system, the sewer system, and the stormwater basin, but we were not able to find the Transportation Corporation documents. I will talk to the landlord and see if he has anything on file. It's those two properties are under common ownership, so if there is something existing, he'll have it.
Okay.
I also spoke to DOT today. He said he has not reviewed the plans yet. He expects to get to it in a couple of days, but after a cursory review, doesn't expect to have a lot of comments because there are no changes being made to anything in the state right-of-way. I also requested to have the backflow preventer tested. That was done this morning. The report was issued this afternoon, and it says it meets the standards. I'll forward that to Kristen and Mike tomorrow.
And to the water department.
And to
The water department.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's
yeah.
where we're looking.
Yeah.
Right. And just a quick one, I'm sure you heard the comments from Phil Greeley earlier that the roundabout coming in that area
Yes.
will not
Yes.
encroach on your land, hopefully. All right, Kristen?
Okay, great. Yeah, thank you, Neil. I appreciate the update. This is the applicant's second appearance before the planning board, but it is the first public hearing that it is on for. It's on for seeker review for an unlisted action, special use permit review, site plan review, and architectural review. The special use permit review requirements are listed as of right now. The applicant appears to be meeting all of those code requirements. From a planning department perspective, there were minimal site plan related comments left. But that said, staff tends to encourage the planning board to open the application's first public hearing and adjourn and defer action before acting on seeker. I had prepared a draft negative declaration if the planning board felt comfortable moving forward with the seeker determination this evening. However, I think if we could just button up the DOT-related comments, I do agree that those comments are probably not applicable at this point.
Okay.
Given that it was minimal changes to the site.
Yes.
You're functioning out of the site currently, but I can't speak for DOT, obviously. So we would want to factor in any of their comments or review as part of the seeker review. I would just feel more comfortable.
So in your eyes, wouldn't be ready for.
Correct. And then also just given the nature of the Transportation Corporation item still kind of hanging out there, I think the town tends to feel a little bit more comfortable being further along in that conversation before granting any sort of conditional approval as well. So I do recommend this evening that you would open the first public hearing, hear any comments, adjourn the public hearing, and then defer action. I would encourage the applicant, the deadline for the November meeting is Monday, so if you feel comfortable and confident that you could address all these comments by Monday, great. If not, I would probably encourage you to submit for the December meeting.
Okay. Yeah, unlikely, even if that would require DOT to get comments back to us by Monday, basically.
Yeah.
And I have no control over that.
Unfortunately, and you're still trying to research the Transportation Corp versus
versus
moving the pipes or whatever,
Probably more
whatever
like
you need to do.
Yeah, in theory, that could go a lot quicker than DOT, but I don't want to commit to that until.
Well, we could always adjourn and then adjourn again, just on the off chance they get back to you quick. All right, Andy? What?
So obviously the big issue is the common use of the sanitary services by the two adjoining parcels. The Transportation Corporation is one option. Possibly an easier option is just to physically separate the lines. But that's up to the applicant how they want to do that. We had a couple of comments about the parking. There's a couple of spaces that look like especially the parallel parking spaces that might be difficult to get in and out of. I'm not sure where we're at in terms of parking count, but it might be worth just kind of eliminating those spaces, depending on how many you need.
Basically, because of the special use, our parking requirements are greater than they would be if this was simply a wholesale facility. And when this development was constructed in the mid-90s, the required parking was not as great as what we're supposed to have for the special use. So we're trying to shoehorn 32 spaces into a lot that's really meant for 20.
Frankly, I think that the requirement is a little high for what the use is. So,
there's not likely to have that, 5 dozen people coming in there at one time.
Yeah, exactly. And then the same with the EV charger. I mean, yeah,
No EV charging stations need to be done there.
And I know that there
Yeah, so-
was a comment about, oh, sorry.
Yeah, I was just gonna, maybe you were just gonna say it. You know, I was recommending a performance bond for completion of the proposed site improvements. Just because normally we have a CO to issue at the end of the project to kind of ensure completion, but in this situation, we don't really have that. So I think that would be an appropriate way to kind of
okay.
make sure things kind of progress.
Okay, because the building's not changing at all, it's just.
Yeah, we'll agree to that. It's going to be a small cost.
All right.
There were comments about fire department access, I believe,
Yes.
too. However, the Arlington Fire Department did review this application the first time it came through. I think the comments had been addressed, or they hadn't had comments at that point. And so we had not circulated the plans to them this time around. I don't think that they had any additional comments. They felt comfortable with the access. So,
Yeah, we, after being out on the site this afternoon, we do need to fix one of the gates. Is the screening fabric has been put over the gate so it doesn't even open. So
that's a problem, yeah.
Yeah.
Cut that
Don't
down
tell
to-
George, he's on the line, so. Okay.
All right, thanks, guys, and so at this point, I move we open the public hearing.
Second.
Moved and seconded, called to question, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Anyone in the room or on Zoom that wishes to comment on the Metro Roofing application? Nobody waving their arms here? Does not appear to be, so I move the planning board adjourn the public hearing to, might as well go with December 21st.
Okay.
Second.
You're gonna be one.
All right, thank you.
2023. Moved and seconded, called to question, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. All right, go around the board for comments. Let's start with Steve.
Yeah, my only comment is I'm more for the safety and less spots rather than trying to push too many spots in.
Okay. Would we have to request a formal waiver of that requirement with the next submission?
Would that be a variance or a waiver?
You could respond and state that then you would no longer be meeting that requirement
Okay.
of the special use permit. I believe that could be handled as a waiver
I think it can
from
be.
the planning
So it
board,
doesn't
yeah.
have to, just, try
Right.
to avoid them going for a variance.
Right.
Yes.
We don't want to add.
Add another burden. All right.
No comments.
Rocco?
Yeah, I've got a comment, and maybe Kristen is the one who can guide me on this here. I'm looking at the comment regarding the storage areas, the outdoor storage areas requiring a minimum of an 8-foot fence, and the applicant has a 6-foot fence which they've placed opaque materials on. Now, I'm also thinking about across to the street, almost directly across to the street, there's going to be the new apartments going up over there, and they can pretty much see over into that. So, what, I mean, is that a natural requirement to have an 8-foot fence?
It is required. Their response was to provide 6 because you're utilizing what's existing, you know.
And I actually want to clarify, that response was incorrect. I went out there this afternoon, took a look at it, and that fence is definitely taller than me. So I believe it is an 8-foot fence out there currently.
It's 8 foot, and it's, okay.
Yeah.
I think no matter what the height, some people will be able to see. over
Yeah,
because of the,
absolutely.
because
So
of forced stories.
it wouldn't make any sense to maybe put some additional trees or something in front of that to,
It's all-
over time, have it.
Blacktop. It's all blacktop.
Yeah.
Oh, it's all blacktop, okay.
Yeah.
It's a parking area.
There's also an overhead door on the building that's immediately adjacent to that fence.
Okay, so you'll update the plans with the actual height of
Yes.
the fence and everything else. All right, thank you.
I think that's a good point, though. We'll want to ensure that all of the, like the screening, if there's privacy slats or otherwise on there, that they're in good condition. I don't know if there's any plan to actually walk the whole fence and make sure it's all in good shape. And
It was in very
I would
good shape.
assume it is because
Yeah.
for security reasons, they don't want anyone back there, so.
Well, it is brand new.
Yeah.
Well, the fence is not new, but the screening fabric is. I didn't see any rips or tears in it.
Yeah,
It
it
looks
was in
to
good
be,
shape when I was there.
yeah, pretty well fastened.
A few years ago. Peter?
When I visited the site, it was clean, was well-maintained.
Mhm.
I think it's an asset, and good luck.
Oh, thank you.
And Nicole?
Comments?
Same thing. My only question was in relating to the roundabout for the other project, because they show a crosswalk coming right into the front of the pond there, so I'm not sure that's a useful crosswalk, but that doesn't really affect you
Okay.
much. And so figure out what you're gonna do with the sewer, as Andy said, it may be easier or cheaper to
Yeah,
do some physical changes versus the legal
yeah.
changes.
I know personally, it's less work for me to do the legal changes.
Yeah,
but,
yeah. Have to see what they want to do.
yeah, we'll find out what the landlord has on file for that.
Okay. Right?
I move the planning board for further action on this application and direct the applicant to respond to comments in writing of the planning board and those received from town departments and agencies, included but not limited to the following 1 through 9.
Second.
Moved and seconded, call the question, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. We'll see you in December.
All right, thank you.
All the updates. Next up is the Washco Car Wash. Who's online?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. James Karras here on behalf of the applicant, Splash Car Wash from JMC.
Hi, how are you?
Good this evening. I'm here this evening with Glenn Shealy on behalf of the applicant as well. How are you tonight?
Good, good. Thanks for giving us an update here. Looks like you made some significant changes to the plans, so.
Yes, and if I can start by sharing my screen, I'll give the board a brief update.
Go right ahead.
Okay. So, see that?
Yes.
We were last before planning board at the July meeting, where we continued to receive good feedback from everyone. And subsequent to that, we met with staff twice, and we had a follow-up meeting with the fire department as well. And we also met with a representative from the DOT to discuss the project. And based on those comments and the input received, we kind of just had to take a hard look at the site and figure out what we could do to address some of those comments to the best extent that we could. So we started by reducing the size of the building footprint. So it's still a single car wash tunnel, but we went down to 4,700 square feet, which is a 700 square foot reduction in size. So what that enabled us to do at the site is to add one continuous unobstructed circulation or bypass lane, providing unobstructed access around the entire site from entrance to exit entirely around the building. And that was one of the important comments we heard from the fire department. So what we've decided to try to do here is to consolidate the full service queuing lanes down to 2 lanes here. So that would be 2 10-foot wide lanes as you drive into the site. And then this wider outside lane, which is unobstructed and 20 feet in width, would be used for 2 things: for emergency apparatus for truck circulation around the site, and it would also serve the purpose as a kind of an easy pass, subscription only vehicle bypass lane, where subscription customers to the car wash would pull in, and the license plate reader system would scan their license plate, and they would proceed through the wash as a subscription customer, as many of the customers are of these car washes over time. So we feel that component addresses several of the comments that we've been hearing. We've also eliminated the angled employee parking spaces that were along the perimeter circulation access aisle as well. And we've relocated that interior to the site. So all of the parking, all of the pedestrian activities, all of the vacuuming activities are located central to the site. So there's no longer that interplay between vehicles in the circulation drive and pedestrians. So we feel that that's an improvement as well. And that also allows us to even bolster the landscaping along the Southgate Drive intersection even more with the elimination of those parking spaces there. And then there was these removable bollards that was opening up access to the vacuum spaces here from the queuing lanes. That's no longer needed with the access around the entire site, so that's also a change here. And we also looked at the proposed curb cut on southbound Route 9. We opened up those curb radii to better accommodate truck and vehicle turning movements both into and out of the site. So based on all the comments we received, this was the updated plan that we developed in conjunction with all the input. That's the update on the site plan. The other update is on the traffic study. We reviewed the scope of the traffic study both with AKRF and with the DOT. We performed counts after school was back in session in early September. That traffic study is almost complete. We plan to submit that on Monday, the 23rd, so that that review can commence. And the other update is the SWIP plan. Depending on what we hear here with some input from your board on the changes to the site plan, we can finalize the SWIP report and provide that for review as well. In addition to responding to the balance of comments that have been received, I think back in June and July on the site plan. So that's the update, and we look forward to continuing this process and submitting the balance of all the technical information that's required.
All right, thank you for the presentation. Go to Kristen for the department's
Yeah,
recommendation.
sure. So the application is still technically on, even though it was just a presentation this
Yep.
evening, a full submission, it's still technically on for a public hearing. So we are recommending that the board open the public hearing, hear any comment, adjourn the public hearing, and defer action with comments. As was noted, there were several meetings that happened between the applicant and staff. We do think that this is a step in the right direction, understanding that there is still some review to be done. Once we've received that traffic study, there may be additional meetings required or analysis required, but I know that the board shares some concerns about queuing. And obviously, there are requirements that will have to be met through DOT as well, because they had requested that traffic study as well for review.
I think the way they changed the plans allows for more queuing on the site even, because it's less restrictive there. You can be going around the corner there.
So just as a matter of, for the record, the applicant will still be responsible for a written response to comments provided to them as part of their July 2023 Planning Board review, as well as a full set of revised plans upon their next Planning Board submission. And then the board should just note that the deferral action resolution that I included documents this by referring the applicant to said July comments they received. And so to that end, Andy Learn's not going, as our town engineer, will not have additional comments at this time, as we did not circulate this to him for any additional review. We wanted the full submission. So this is really just to provide an update. If you have comments based on this sort of interim layout as we move forward, but this layout has come a long way. And so we think that a lot of those comments that had previously existed have been addressed.
Yep. Sounds good. I see, it probably satisfies fire now. I see George is on. I don't know if he cares to make any comment on it.
Well, we're going to open the public hearing, so maybe
But
we'll just ask you.
Could do that if he cares to comment. So I move we open the public hearing.
Second.
Moved and seconded, called to question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Anyone wish to comment on this application? George, you have any?
Yes, I would like to
Oh,
speak.
hang on, George. I see someone in the room here.
Yep, come on.
So come on down.
Yep, sorry.
My name's Ira Sheehan, 35-year resident of Poughkeepsie, 40-year business owner here in the town of Poughkeepsie. As you're probably all aware, 3 years ago, there was a Stewart's that made application to the town board.
Yep.
I would like to ask the town board, what is the big difference between Stewart's and this car wash that they seem like pushing this project through where you're opposed to Stewart's?
There's no
Many of the
gas.
concerns that you guys had are still the same. Noise, fumes, increased traffic, it goes on and on, but what's the difference?
We are not the town board. This is the planning board. The town
Planning board, I'm
board,
sorry.
right, the town board is the one that, kind of put a stop to the prior application. So you could ask the town board that question, but I don't think anyone here was on the,
Yeah, we
no one
were.
was here, was part of that, so.
So you're saying the application that was made by Stewart's was basically stopped by the town board?
Yes.
That's correct.
Yeah,
Okay.
we were working with the applicant and going through the plans and making adjustments, and we thought it was moving forward, and then the town board came out and said,
Okay.
built, so.
Do you know when that's on for town board discussion?
I mean, the town board meets several times a month. Their next meeting would be November 1st. This will not be on their agenda, but there is an opportunity for general public comment at every one of their meetings, so you could ask them if you were so inclined at any one of their meetings.
Whether it's on their agenda or not?
It's not, right. At the end of their meeting, they allow public comment on anything.
Okay.
So if you wanted to, you could provide that comment to them at that time.
Okay.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. Thank
You're
you
welcome.
very much.
All right, thanks. Anyone else in the room? Okay, all right, George, did you want to say something?
Yes, thank you, George from Arlington Fire Department. We did have multiple meetings with the applicant, and the plan has made significant changes in the right direction. And we'll continue to review during the next cycle, but the overwhelming majority of those comments have been addressed.
All right, thanks for weighing in, George. Anyone else on the Zoom call? Seeing none, I move we adjourn the public hearing to November 16th, 2023.
Second.
Moved and seconded, called to question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Go around the board for comments. Start with Nicole.
I don't really have any comments, thank you.
Rocco?
Yeah, I've got a couple of questions regarding the bypass lane. And before I comment further, those cleaning stations by the parking areas, are those available to the general public, whether or not they use the car wash?
They have to use the car wash.
They have to use the
Open
car,
to the
okay,
public.
so they would not be available. All right,
It's
thank
an
you.
amenity
So that would eliminate one of my questions. Okay, so the other question then is that with the bypass, you do say that the subscription clients can use the bypass, and then we'll get, can you just at a high level kind of walk me through how that would work? Because, I mean, I can see cars coming in there, and there might be someone from one of these other lanes coming through, and the gate went up, they're going through, and then someone else comes through the bypass lane, and, it
Merges there,
could be,
yeah.
it's an accident.
The bypass lane is only if somebody has something that they can't go through the car wash with, being a bike rack. People bring some crazy stuff, kayaks on the top, ladder racks, or a ladder on the rack. So that's the only reason they use the bypass lane. The computer reads everybody's license plate, or takes their payment and opens the gate, or on that special lane, the Easy Pass lane only has a sign that was like a stoplight, red or green, to tell them to move forward. So it only lets one at a time go in, so nobody is ever close to each other past the gate.
So if I'm a subscription client, I would have to get into one of those two lanes that is gated.
You can get in any of the lanes, but only that 20-foot lane would be subscription only, just so it moves quicker, and it would only
Right, well,
read
that's
the
what I'm
license
asking
plate.
for, is that if I'm a subscription client and I go into what is the bypass lane, that 20-foot lane, okay, and I'm going through there, and they read my my license plate and recognize me, is there a red and green light there also? For the
Yes,
subscription
yes.
client? Okay.
Okay, that was my question too.
Okay, so that's how it works, because I'm thinking that, okay, I come matooling in there, and I know that I'm a subscription client, and then hopefully I keep, but to the left-hand side, I might be in the middle of the lane, which then kind of defeats the whole purpose of the bypass. And then I go in there, and there's another car coming in there. Okay, so that cannot happen according to your program.
As long as they honor the
Right.
lights, I guess.
As long as they honor the red light. Okay,
That's-
all right, yeah, well,
It
okay.
actually shows us like a stop sign on a digital screen. It says, wait for your turn, car wash busy in process. And then it would go to an arrow that would say, your turn is ready, please proceed forward. So that's how it works on it.
Okay, so so if these two non-subscription lanes are filled up, they're all the way queued, and I'm a subscription client, and I come up and there's a red light, I would be the next car to go, even though someone might have been there in the other lanes ahead of me.
It's say all 3 lanes are filled, say you're on the prescription lane and there's 2 other cars, whatever LPR or whatever payment took first, that's the next person to go.
Okay.
So it only takes whoever, it doesn't give the LPR or the easy pass lanes, carte blanche to pass everybody. It's whoever
Okay.
payment goes through first.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
All right,
I think for the traffic, we asked the previous applicant to consider, right, because it's the same, or did I get it wrong?
I mean, they have to do a traffic study.
So are they gonna take into consideration the development that's coming up
Casper.
Across
in
the street,
Casper?
yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Because we
James,
asked,
James, do you recall what intersections we were required of DOT to include? Was because we do
Yes.
have the development going on up Route 9.
Neptune Road there.
Yes, so the intersections studied are Southgate Drive and South Road, and the next intersection to the north, Neptune and Southgate and South Road, in addition to the proposed site driveway. The design year for this proposed car wash is 2026, as far as the study is concerned.
Okay,
Thank you. I was pretty sure we included it, but.
yeah, that's good. Yeah, Neptune Road is where the other traffic will be coming out of. Steve?
Yeah, when the car wash is operating, how many cars can be in that building at one time? In that process?
Yeah, it's a 150-foot tunnel, so you have 7 inside.
So my concern is the amount of space for cars on the exit is the least amount. If there's a backup there, what's your process to stop that automation and not have people backing up if they can't get on Route 9?
Well, through the car wash, it's digitally through cameras. It's actually a system called no pileups. And when you pull in a car wash, and if you pull in any of the car washes we have now, you'll see on a wall, basically a TV screen with green blocks showing the cars going through the car wash. If any of them get out of their block, it immediately shuts the wash down. Now, on the exit side of the car wash, once they're out of the car wash, we put loops in the ground. And if the LPR starts seeing that people are sitting and there's nobody moving through the loops and cars are stopped, it'll shut the wash down too, so there's not a pileup or a collision at any time on the site.
Okay, so it's all automatic. It's an automatic process.
Yes, yeah, a digital process, but a monitoring system that we pay for, fee every month that actually has even people watching it. So if there is, say all of a sudden an occurrence happens at the same time, it'll notify us right away to say, hey, you have an issue here on loop A or camera 2. It's actually a pretty cool system. No pileups is the name of it if you wanted to go online and take a look at it.
Thank you.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, Steve. And Peter?
I'm not going to second guess someone who spends their life studying traffic and movement of traffic. But it seems counterintuitive to me when I look at the distance from the exit here to the light at Southgate Drive and Route 9. You have about 150 to 160 feet, which would accommodate at any time about 10 vehicles, not including trucks. And when you consider the existing traffic southbound on Route 9 at any given time and the queuing at that light, again, at any given time, especially at rush hour, it just seems doesn't seem possible considering the high volume of this business. But I'm keeping an open mind, and I want to see the results of the study, but I think it's
Yep.
something we have to take a very close
I
look at.
mean, yeah, I'm glad, like, Steve was asking that they do stop the flow of everything if traffic gets backed up there on Route 9.
Could be a big problem.
But we'll see what the study shows. All right, I don't think I have any, oh, wait. You're not proposing any EV chargers on here, right?
No.
Okay, yeah, it's just a in and out kind of facility, so no need for that. And I guess I'll be looking forward to seeing what you do have on the plans for screening on Southgate Drive, because those houses are right there on the corner, on the southwest corner of the
Yes.
property. All right?
Yes, the design currently includes a robust landscaping plan along that frontage.
Great. We'll see you next month then. Finish up.
I move that the planning board defer further action on this application, direct the applicant to respond to comments in writing of the planning board and those received from town departments and agencies included but not limited to the following 1 through 12.
Second.
Moved and seconded to defer, call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. All right, thanks and have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you for that.
We have some adjournments to do. Anyone have any board members have any comments on the adjournments? Seeing none, I move for 8 Tucker Drive. I move the planning board adjourn the public hearing to November 16, 2023.
Second.
Moved and seconded, called to question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. For Stratford Farm Townhomes, I move that the planning board adjourn the public hearing to November 16, 2023.
Second.
Moved and seconded, called to question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. 68 Van Wagner Road, I move the planning board adjourn the public hearing to November 16th, 2023.
Second.
Moved and seconded, called to question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Extra space storage, I move that the planning board adjourn the public hearing to November 16th, 2023.
Second.
Moved and seconded, called to question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. And Hudson Valley Animal Rescue, I move the planning board adjourn the public hearing to November 16th, 2023.
Second.
Moved and seconded, called to question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. At this time, I move we allow public comment on other items on tonight's agenda.
Second.
Moved and seconded, called to question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Is there any comments in the room on remaining agenda items or on Zoom call?
Again, if you're on the Zoom and you have a comment on another item that's on the agenda tonight, you can provide that now by unmuting yourself. Okay.
Seeing none, I move we continue the meeting.
Second.
Moved and seconded, called to question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Next up is Lakeview Luxury Apartments. Someone in the room to approve? Nope.
I
looks
think
like-
on Zoom.
Must be on Zoom.
Yeah.
Who's here representing Lakeview Apartments?
Glendon, is that you? If so, you gotta unmute yourself.
Yep, sorry about that.
That's all right. All right.
I'm here. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening. If you want to share your screen to give an overview of what your proposal is.
Let's see. I can figure out how to do it.
Do you have to,
Oh, I don't have to, no, I don't think it's,
checking.
yeah, I don't think, yeah, he's okay to share screen.
Can everyone see that?
Yes.
Yes, great.
Okay, excellent. All right, so this is our first go-around with you guys, so should be interesting.
I already warned him.
It's already interesting.
It's a pretty exciting project. Our client actually owns the piece of property that is to the west of this piece. And it's very similar in nature to what he's looking to do, except he's gonna upgrade it to make it more of a luxury, gated community. I think it works well in terms of, you know, what he's already there, what he already has established there. He knows the area. He already has a system developed on how to manage the area, manage this type of project, or facility, let's say. And just getting the zoning changed to accommodate what he's looking to do, I think is first part of our challenge. And then the next challenge that we have that's really, I think, a big one is dealing with that pond in the center, which is obviously a wetlands issue. We try to maintain the setback requirements in terms of how we laid out the units. I think we've met that. We originally had a swimming pool going in. We've taken that out because that would cause more issues. Because of the water table, you know, the high water table.
It's a lake.
So, yeah, the lake, we did away with that. And then we had the issue of the steep slope coming from, basically from the Route 9 location coming down the hill. So we tried to avoid the slope as much as possible by placing all the units on either the upper left-hand corner or in the lower corner here. So we did the best we could do with that. And then we tried to minimize how much exposure we would have by placing the two smaller units in this corner and over here. Now, we had no choice but to create a cul-de-sac because obviously the slope along this portion of the site is so great that trying to get a road in here would have been a major challenge for us. So we figured, okay, if we come in from this area, come all the way around, two-way traffic, the circumference of the turn is sufficient enough so we could get a fire truck. That's an illustration of a fire truck, by the way. Oops, sorry. Would make the turn with no problem, and then we'd be able to exit back the opposite direction out of the site. So we try to keep it as simple as possible. Basically utilize the pond to the most of what we could by placing this gazebo out there, putting a water feature out there, so we kind of cut down on the algae and the different things that would develop over time. And that's pretty much it. It's pretty straightforward. The units are you know, the 2 bedrooms and 1 bedroom units. That's it. And then apart from that, the 3 bedrooms, which are more like the townhouse layout.
All right. I mean, I know town tries to discourage cul-de-sacs these days, but as long as it's not a town road, you can do what you want, but the fire department has to make sure it's still right, not too long to become so I'm sure you'll work with them. All right.
Yes.
Kristen?
Are you ready?
Not really.
Okay, no, I spoke to Glendon earlier
early.
today, so he's already been briefed.
It's early in the application process. So.
But the application is on for a seeker review for type 1 action, coastal consistency review, and advisory report to the town board regarding a proposed zoning district change from the BH or highway business zoning district to residence multifamily zoning district. Minor subdivision review, site plan review, erosion and sediment control permit review, aquatic resources permit review, and architectural review. Okay.
So we need a lot more things before we circulate it.
Jokes aside, the EAF, Glendon and I, we talked about it this morning. We're looking for a little bit more of a complete EAF. So obviously the comments are there to guide the applicant through taking another shot at addressing those or providing a complete Part 1 EAF. If there are questions, obviously we encourage the applicant to reach out as you go. There is an EAF mapper that is usually, there's a tool that you can use to help you through that process. And again, if you have questions, obviously we encourage you to reach out. That said, we also discussed that the applicant would meet with staff prior to coming back or making another submission to the planning board. We think that it's in the applicant's best interest in terms of moving forward in an efficient manner. There are many concerns related to the wetland identified. It is a federally regulated wetland, and although they might not prescribe certain buffers or otherwise to maintain or protect it, the town has their own standards that have to be adhered to. We also are going off aerial footage or imagery. We're looking probably to get a clear delineation of that wetland, but also there are currently spillways on the property as well. And now I'm stealing Carol's thunder. Right now there are buildings proposed in said spillway. That is obviously a concern. We'll need to take another look at the site design and layout because of that. The cul-de-sac design is really not something that is encouraged. So again, I think at minimum, meeting with staff, working our way through what the town code prescribes or describes and defines as constrained lands, doing the calculation based on that definition and calculation, and then getting a clear picture of how many units are actually allowed on or permitted on the property. And then going from there, right, and sort of designing around it. You may find as the applicant that it is no longer financially viable of a project. We don't know. But certainly when you start proposing elements such as a boardwalk to a gazebo in the middle of a wetland, it's likely an uphill battle, frankly. So we want to obviously have this discussion with the applicant, work through the EAF to get an updated EAF on record in order for the board to circulate their intent to be lead agency. So this evening, we are recommending that the applicant or the planning board defer action with comments, yes. And just for the board's and the applicant's benefit, there is a blurb under each criteria that has to be met. There are code references. I did my best to try and spell out exactly everywhere in the code that you need to reference just to get the application up to par for sort of a lead agency intent circulation. There are bolded items very clearly articulated, I think, I wrote them, under the site plan review that will need to be addressed above all before even moving into any of the remaining site concerns. And so with that, I will just go ahead and be quiet. Carol Knapp with Aspen Environmental is on and has reviewed the application and obviously the town engineer as well.
All right, thanks, Kristen. When we did the hotel and everything, I kind of envisioned this as just open space behind the hotel, but one question I would have is if that gets subdivided off, how does that affect the open space calculations for the hotel in that parcel?
Right. One of the things that the applicant will definitely have to do going forward is make sure that there are no violations of the site plan for the hotel and the related properties, and also that none of those lots are made non-conforming or any other site plan conditions out of conformance with once this parcel is carved off of that parcel.
Right.
The other thing from a legal standpoint is the road is, Rivercrest Road is
Yes.
privately owned.
Yes.
So we need to see some evidence that they have permission from the owner to do that. And then it has its own issues because it's technically a landlocked parcel. Because, it's a mapped road, so we have to see what road access they are provided.
Yeah, that's IBM owns that, so.
Right.
All right. Thanks, Lisa. Let's go to Andy first. Can you unshare your screen now? We can.
All right, can everybody hear me? Sorry, I had to switch devices.
Actually leave the screen shared if you can.
Leave the screen share? Okay.
Yeah, we can see the plan well.
Yeah, we can hear you, Andy.
Okay, great. Lisa mentioned the access issue. We have also concerns about sewer and water for this site. Those are also privately owned, and they serve multiple lots. So similar to other projects we have an agenda this evening, that will require a transportation corporation in order to allow those utilities to be connected. We mentioned the spillway. Spillway is a concern for me. You've got a road constructed over the existing spillway for the pond with a fairly significant watershed draining to the area. into the pond, and we want to make sure that, first of all, with the drainage analysis, the full watershed is analyzed and accounted for the flows going into and going out of the pond. And we want to make sure that the capacity of that spillway is maintained. And also, we're going to want to make sure that the downstream areas of that pond are not impacted by this, any changes that are resulting from this development. We had some concerns about the orientation of some of the roads. Sharp angles shown would be very difficult for some vehicular movements as well as sight distance issues. I think that those are kind of the big issues. Along with coordinating with the fire department in terms of the length of the cul-de-sac to make sure that that doesn't exceed any fire code requirements, not to mention town code requirements. So.
Yeah, I think that's 600 feet if I recall, but we'll have to let the fire department weigh in on that with them. All right, let me circulate. Let's go to Carol. I see you've taken a look at this.
Yes. In addition to what Kristen had mentioned about some issues with the EAF, this to me, since we spoke last, I did have an opportunity to just take a look at the site, ran down there. Just a first glance, this looks like a parcel that was developed on paper without having looked at the actual site. The south side of that pond is the pond has been there for decades, but it is clearly bermed. I'm sure that path, that nature path around it is on the top of the berm, and then it drops about, maybe 10 feet. And basically from there to the property line is a significant amount of wetland. Running water, standing water. I just see this as being a total uphill battle from that angle. So if this is going to proceed, we would need a good quality of wetland delineation, and I'm going to caveat that with saying it has to be done during the growing season. This can't be like a mid-January delineation. It's going to have to get a lot of permitting. And I'll just leave it at that.
Okay.
It's an uphill battle.
Thanks, Carol. And since it's a low lands as well, I mean, I guess the drainage of all the impervious has to be figured out as well.
Yeah, there's drainage coming from the hill side from the whatever the hotel, as well as through the drainage from the pond, as well as other drainage as well, coming from all angles.
Mm-hmm. All right, thanks, Carol. Yeah, the density calculation has to account for all the wetlands and the steep slopes and everything before you decide how many units you can have. So, as Kristen hinted at, it'd be good to have an offline meeting with them and go through some of those details to see.
Well, and it's the density calculation and constrained lands, but it's also a balancing act now, also with the RM zoning district requirement, area and bulk requirements for lot coverage, impervious surface. So again, I don't have the math to start with, so we don't know if it's even viable as proposed.
I mean, it looks like a lot packed into there. So we'll have to see how they want to proceed. Let's go around the board for some comments. Peter?
As the saying goes, you only have one chance to make a first impression. And I've looked at many hundreds of applications, and it's stunning when I look at the number of factual errors in the environmental assessment form. Rivercrest Road, you're showing your access and egress on Rivercrest Road. You have no access to Rivercrest Road. There are only 3 entities that have access to Rivercrest Road, which is owned by IBM. And it's the Town of Poughkeepsie PBA, Pirate Canoe Club, and the Young Morris Historic Site. So we're gonna have to get something from you to reflect an interest that you have to Rivercrest Road, since you're representing it as your only means of access and egress.
Yep.
The adjacent property has access also. The other apartment complex which
Right.
is directly
Right.
to the west of where we are.
Not according to the filed maps, but that's something that you can share with us at a future present, we definitely want to see it.
It's definitely, yeah, those apartments were fairly, go back decades, so they may not have filed it properly. All right.
It's time.
Nicole?
Yeah, I don't know that I have anything to add. This is definitely a constrained site, and I'm not sure that it's something that can really go forward, but I guess you can have some offline meetings and go through some of these other things that are missing and see what happens.
Yep. Rocco?
Yeah, I mean, I have to echo what Nicole said. I mean, right now, there's like 9 pages worth of the data that has been asked for. We are early here, but it looks like that you have a lot of work to do to make this a viable project, if it's even viable.
It's really, I mean, surprised by Carol's comment that this is some theoretical study that somebody took the area without really visiting it, it seems, and
Yeah,
understanding what is involved before putting all this together.
It's a pond and a wetland and all that, so you gotta.
With all the surroundings she described, I mean,
And once it's delineated, the town has a 25-foot buffer, I believe. Is that correct, Carol? No.
Yes, yes.
That's correct. Thanks, Carol.
I'm Lisa today, I'm Carol.
Yeah, just one other thing for a follow-up is, does this proposal include the formation of a transportation corporation to handle the whole sewer and all those issues? Is that part of the proposal?
If it's necessary, yes, we'll make that happen.
All right.
I would also add that a new water meter pit will be required out at Route 9.
Right.
The county had some comments as well. They suggested maybe pedestrian path connection to the, can get up to the stores one way or the other. Let's see what else I had. I think everything else has been said.
Okay, I move the planning board defer further action on this application and direct the applicant to respond to comments of the planning board and those received from town departments and agencies, included but not limited to the following 1 through 13.
Second.
Moved and seconded, called to question, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes 6-0. All right, good luck, but we'll see how, we got an uphill battle, as somebody said.
Yes, thank you very much.
All right, next up is Beacon Residential. Somebody here to represent, I see someone in the room here to represent that.
Sure.
All right. Welcome.
Good evening, everybody. Steve Burns with representing Beacon Residential.
Great, Steve. Yeah, we've seen this project before, so, but some of the board members are new, so give us a quick overview.
Okay, so this project has been here before, obviously. It's for a 4-unit, each unit being 2-bedroom apartments in a single building on a lot that's in an R20 zoning district. The zoning district doesn't allow for multifamily, so we're in front of the town board with a request to rezone the property and have been deferred to your board so that we could take care of the seeker and select a lead agency. The project's located at 297 Violet Avenue. It's across from the DOT entrance on Violet Avenue. DOT is across the street. To the north is a multifamily house. To the south is Schmeling Glass, which is a commercial property. It's with structures right along the south property line. And also to the south, up near Violet Avenue, is a small little parcel that houses a Town of Poughkeepsie sewage pumping station. To the rear of the property, Schmeling Glass their property extends up behind the rear of our property, which is on the west side. Just a small area that's probably 80 feet wide or so, and then it opens up into a manufactured home community located there. So the neighborhood is really commercial and industrial, and it's a single family house would kind of it doesn't exactly fit in the area, in my opinion. We've provided parking for 12 vehicles, I believe. That's located to the rear of the property. There's a couple variances that are required to from the ZBA to make this project work, that we encountered through the last time, our last round. Some of those variances include parking setbacks, which the parking lot is about 4 feet from the property line at some points. Impervious area coverage, which we're about, I think, 11% higher than what we're allowed, somewhere in that range. And the last one is the density requirement for the dwelling units. We don't have enough. The lot isn't large enough for dwelling units. But this was all previously approved, and the applicant had gotten to the point of having actually a building permit, but things just didn't come together in order to build it. So they lost all their approvals based on the expiration of the building permits without a valid CO.
All right, thanks for the presentation. Yeah, they'll have to go back. I mean, they did get all the variances and the zoning board and the zoning change and stuff, so.
Yes.
We'll see where it goes through this time. All right, Eric?
Sure. This is on tonight. The only action for the board tonight, if it chooses, is a declaration of lead agency intent. And then going forward, there would be a rezoning recommendation of the town board, site plan and architectural review. As Steve mentioned, it was approved previously. I think it was reviewed 2015 through 2019. I think it got its approvals in 2018 or 19, and after extensions and a couple of reapprovals did expire. It did get a conditional rezoning from the town board, and it did get a site plan approval and zoning variances from the ZBA. It is a tight site to fit the 4 units on, but it did work before. The new application will need to comply with the current day standards, whatever they are, and you have review comments to that effect.
Yep.
That's pretty much it.
Thanks, Eric.
The only point we do recommend is I didn't find any record, just the board is supposed to make a finding at some point for residential development regarding potential parkland dedication for residential development or a fee in lieu of. I couldn't find anything in the previous one, and this is a new application, so the board should weigh in that we don't think that there's suitable land for parkland here.
No.
Since the project really fits on the property, I think so. I think they'll be doing a fee in lieu of. At least their fire insurance should be pretty cheap since that's right across the street, the fire department.
Just to the south there, yes.
All right, right, Andy?
Yeah, we don't have a lot to add. You know, we have a couple of questions that we noted in the comment letter. One thing I will note is that the lighting levels appear to be kind of low on the west side of the parking lot. I'd like to have that reevaluated just to make sure that that'll be a safe condition for anyone living there using the parking lot.
All right, thanks, Andy. We'll go around the board for comment. Start with Nicole this time.
Yeah, so, obviously, we've seen this before. I do know that you'll need a couple of things, like you had mentioned, reapproval of some of those variances. Probably will need some reapproval from the health department. I did see a note from the building department stating laundry rooms need to be handicap accessible. Were you looking to put them in the basement? Is that what that comment was all about?
There was no proposal to put the laundry room, or put a laundry room in.
Oh, okay.
The comment was about if we decided to put a laundry room in the basement, that the laundry room would have to be accessible, and I don't, on this piece of property, I don't think that's gonna work out.
Something you're gonna be doing, okay. All right, yeah, I think that was it. Thanks.
Thanks. Rocco?
No comment at this time. No.
Ahmed?
No comment at this time.
Steve?
No comment.
And Peter?
This is like the ghost of Christmas past. Good luck.
Yeah, I mean, it's proposed the same architecture as before, it appears, same everything.
Yes.
So it's just a matter of going through the process again, so.
It's the same owners and everything. It's
Okay, great.
So when does construction start?
as soon as we get it all approved.
Go through that again.
Okay. I move the planning board declare its intent to be lead agency to coordinate the environmental review of the proposed project as an unlisted action and authorize the planning department circulation of the notice of said intent, a copy of the EAF, and a copy of the application to the identified and involved agencies.
Second.
Moved and seconded for lead agency circulation. Call to question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
Move the planning board to defer further action on this application pending establishment of lead agency, direct the applicant to respond in writing to comments of the planning board and those received from town departments and agencies included but not limited to the following. Respond to the following, said responses to be reviewed by the planning department as adequacy and completeness, 1 through 10.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Call to question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. All right, you're on your way again. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck with the town board. Okay, we have a couple architectural reviews. First one up is 1837 to 1839 South Road. Let's see.
Ed, are you gonna be doing a PowerPoint presentation?
No, they have.
I'm only kidding.
We do the old-fashioned way.
Mike.
We know how to do that, still.
Trying to keep it light.
All right. Welcome. What's your plan?
Well, should I wait for the gentleman to come back, or do you want to start?
No, go ahead.
We'll fill them in.
Thank you. My name is Ed Lodi. I'm an architect representing the owner of the property. And their intent here is simply to take that little building that you see in the bottom image and kind of improve it. He was hoping not only to get a better type of a tenant, but also just to improve the general look of the property. The building next to it has that same angle, so that's why we use that angle. It's basically a false front attached to the existing building. Last Monday night, we received zoning board of approval because the the false roof actually was within a setback requirement, you know.
Okay.
So we were 5 feet away from the property line and with the existing building, but because we lifted that roof, at the owner's request, we came here to the ZBA, and we did get unanimous approval. So I'm hoping I would get a similar approval from you all.
All right, thanks.
Yes.
All right, Kristen, this is
All right.
yours.
So fairly straightforward on for architectural review. It is a type 2 action for seeker. And I do have I had a few comments, just kind of standard that go along with architectural review. We didn't have this beautiful color rendering when we were doing our little review. So it actually answers a lot of my questions. And so we weren't sure if the applicant was going to appear at the ZBA and receive their variances as needed. So I had actually crafted the resolution to include potential conditional architectural review approval. But you know, aside from adding a signature block to the plans, I think that, you know, they're in good shape for just granting an architectural review approval. I guess technically it's still conditional though, because there are additional comments from other staff that we just want to make sure we're hitting. So I think the safe way to go about it is
Okay,
including
so keep the conditional.
Yeah.
Just to cover the bases. All right, thanks, Kristen. Let's just go around the board for comments and questions. Peter?
No, nothing really. I think it looks good. It actually reminds me of some of the newer buildings that were just put up on Route 9 where the old hotel used to be, where now there's like the soap place and the Mike's sandwiches. It has that angle that we had asked for. So, yeah, no, it looks good.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I'm okay.
Looks good.
All right, we're getting thumbs up all around.
I just had two more comments, if I could. One is that the Dutchess County, we did have to circulate to Dutchess County for their review. They didn't have any comments about the proposed facade changes. However, they do note that that wall gives way to being a great place to locate a sign, for which I did note to them that you would be required to go to the zoning department for any, you know, for a sign variant, or a sign, submit a signage application for review, which may trigger an additional trip to the ZBA depending on what it is you were trying to place there. I am not the zoning administrator. I am merely passing that information along to you. Also, if I just, you know, again, want to less for the planning board, but more for the applicant to make you aware, to make your client aware that, you know, our zoning administrator did visit the property and had noticed that there are materials being stored at the back of the lot, and we should probably be working to address those concerns, and so I just am passing that along as well.
Well, thank you. Regarding the sign, we don't know who might be the tenant, so we'll all have to wait for that.
Right.
And if that whenever that happens, we will probably be back here because we have no choice but to comply with everything. So we'll be back.
Yeah, that'll just go through the zoning department though. Yep.
Thank you.
And then, were you able to get any information about what was going on at the back of this particular lot, or?
I mean, I have been back there, and there is a roofing company that stores some material back there. Now, I've looked at the very original plan, which was supposedly before this board, not you all, but whoever was on the board at the time. I think that's about 30 years old. There's absolutely nothing on that drawing that says what you can and can't do. Back there, it just all has a large open area that the owners of the property, because they're in that business, use to store their roofing materials. So it would seem to me that that would be an acceptable thing to do until such time that he wants to do something else. I think down the road they are planning to do some, maybe plan for a larger building back there. And at which time we'll be back here, and I'm sure we'll have to do whatever you all want. And we're ready to do that.
Well, I don't think it impacts the architectural review,
No.
obviously, but
No.
it may become an issue if and when they go for their building permit, because I think then there'll be some follow-up on
whether or not it needs, to be remedied.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
It looks all nice and clean behind the main building, looks like it's all new pavement and everything there, so that looks nice, but behind the smaller building, it's really, there's an expired, office park approval behind that, backs up to this.
I'm sorry, I didn't quite understand. what-
There's an expired office park approval that was behind this project, but that.
On a
that's,
separate property?
On a
or-
separate property.
Okay.
right, That backs up to this one,
Okay.
but that's expired at this point.
I wasn't aware of that.
So anyway, like I said, for architectural review purposes, you're fine, in my opinion.
Thank you.
But,
Thank
it's really more about, making sure that you're aware for your client to let them know that it could get flagged, and held up in a building permit related discussion.
The only question I had was, how thick is that front piece? Does that basically allow a vestibule between the two doors or something?
Oh, which, the thickness of the wall?
Of the
Of that raised wall?
This whole false front
Yeah,
you're putting on the
that's,
building?
what, 8 inches?
8 inches, yeah.
It's 8 inches,
Oh,
it's
it's just a-
structural.
oh, it's
yeah.
just a-
Oh, it's a facade, it's a false facade.
Okay, it looked thicker and looked like a few feet
It,
thicker.
it wraps around the corner.
Okay, that's why I
Yeah.
looked at, okay. All right,
Okay. I move the planning board grant conditional architectural review approval on 1837 through 1839 South Roads architectural review and direct the applicant to respond to comments in writing of the planning board and those received from town departments and agencies included but not limited to the following 1 through 6.
Second.
moved and seconded, called to question, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Good to go.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hanging in there. We got a couple more. Okay, Central Plaza facade renovations on Taft Avenue.
So I should ask Frank too if he's gonna do a PowerPoint.
Yeah.
Frank, you doing a PowerPoint?
He's gonna point to it with a.
Evening, everybody. Frank Gretel, project manager for Video Treats, which owns this parcel. Video Treats is owned by Dave and Kelly Hardesty, who are with us tonight. Kelly and Dave were the original developers of this property. They put the building up decades ago, and it's got to the stage where they want to upgrade it, make it look nicer, and we're happy to give this presentation to you this evening. The original. Is this on? Yeah.
Yep.
The original comment letter from Eric was we were missing the east and west elevations. We've placed them on this new plan. We've also placed a signature block on the initial page 2. Basically, what they want to do is dress it up. It's a combination of colors. They're going to use either aged pewter, which is the gray, or cobblestone, which is the brown. Some of the EVIS will be painted, and the other areas will be the installation of hardboard, either the aged pewter or the cobblestone. On the front, there's some existing awnings. We're going to leave these two alone. New awnings will go there. K&D Deli's here. This one's vacant right now. They're in search of a tenant. This awning here will probably be doing black. We're not sure of the color here because it depends on the tenant. But I can assure you it's not going to be orange or yellow. It's going to be something that blends into the building. We're also showing the rear of the building, which isn't seen that much because there's some mature trees behind it.
Yep.
We're also installing some decorative sconce lights on the front and the side where K&D Deli is. And underneath the awnings, we're proposing lights, LED lights that shine down. Kelly and I had a conversation with Eric today because he had some questions about the photometrics. We've supplied photometrics that clearly shows that none of the light trespasses off the property.
Okay.
But Eric was questioning, it seemed pretty bright here. He's right, but there's a couple of reasons for that. Security and safety. If you've had the opportunity to go by the building lately, it seems dark in front. And Domino's is always open late. K&D Deli also often has hours into the evening. So these lights will shine down on the sidewalk because you can see on the lighting plan, while it's bright on the sidewalk, it really dissipates really fast. The awnings that we're going to use are opaque. And I brought a sample in. You can see that the light doesn't go through it. So the lights that we're installing underneath the awnings is going to just shine down. It's not going to be shining out towards the road. And be happy to answer any questions anybody may have.
Thank you, Frank. Eric?
Sure. The architectural review is pretty straightforward, up to board discussion. The only staff concern had to do with the lighting, and I think Frank has addressed that, sufficient for the board to discuss. Clearly, the concern was not with light trespass off the property or the site lighting overall, but with a prohibition in the lighting code that says no light up through the awning. And if the material is opaque, then that would take. I asked Frank to bring us a sample tonight, so if it's opaque, then that's no problem.
Sounds good. Anybody want to chime in?
You had me at opaque.
Eating Mr. Finelli.
Looks good.
I think it looks like a great improvement to the stonework.
Yeah, we're happy with it. Anything that Kelly and Dave do is very tasteful. You'll be proud of the job when they're done.
I remember we approved something a couple of years ago with the garbage.
It was a while ago, we came in for outside dining, but we never went through with it.
Never followed through, all right. And good luck getting a tenant there.
Yep, we're trying.
I move that the planning board grant conditional architectural review approval for Center Plaza facade renovations for Taft Avenue and direct the applicant to respond to comments in the writing for planning board and those received from town departments and agencies, included but not limited to the following 1 through 3.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Called to question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. 6-0.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank
Good night.
you.
Have a good night.
You too. Next up is Town Code Amendment for seasonal sales. Mike?
Yeah, so this is an amendment to the town code that was presented by the Code Update Committee to the town board. The town board will be holding a public hearing on November 1st. Basically, the change is mostly to clean up some things. Previously, we had things like Christmas tree sales and fireworks sales and those kinds of things ended up in the community events section of the code. We realized as we were working on believe it or not, the fees for community events, that those things really didn't fit there. They should be part of zoning, right, with the garage sales and tent sales and that type of thing. So basically the change moves that to zoning and puts them under temporary sales category in our zoning code. It's pretty straightforward. And if you are comfortable with it, we're just looking for a recommendation from the planning board.
Any comments from any board members? This seems pretty straightforward. Seeing none, I move the planning board to convey a positive recommendation to the town board regarding adoption of the proposed town code amendment related to seasonal sales.
Second.
Moved and seconded, called to question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Next up is Eastdale Village time extension. I move the planning board grant a 90-day time extension of conditional subdivision approval from November 7th, 2023 forward to February 5th, 2023.
Second.
Moved and seconded, called to question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Children's Home of Poughkeepsie Learning Center. I move the planning board grant 2 90-day time extensions, moving the approval expiration date from November 17th, 2023 to May 15th, 2024.
Second.
Moved and seconded, called to question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. I just realized going back to the Eastdale one, I said 2023, it's February 2024.
Duly noted.
Judgment Day. Chief Manor, I move that the planning board grant 2 90-day time extensions forward to moving the approval expiration date from November 17th, 2023 to May 15th, 2024.
Second.
Moved and seconded, called to question, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. And lastly, 1 Duchess, time extension. I move the planning board grant 2 90-day time extensions, moving the approval expiration date from November 16th, 2023 to May 14th, 2024.
Second.
Moved and seconded, called to question, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. And we have, next up is the seeker lead agency request from the town board for Schatz. You have any comments on that, Mike?
It's just that the applicant has petitioned the town board for rezoning and also for a pilot. And so the town board intends to be the lead agency for a seeker review. So if you wish to consent, that'll be good.
Anybody wish to not consent? I move the planning board consents to the town board as lead agency for the Schatz property redevelopment.
Second.
Moved and seconded, called to question, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
We have
6-0.
one more item. Quickly.
One more item.
Pass that to Peter, please.
I think there's 6, so there might be,
Oh, I don't need
Well,
one.
there's 6
Here you
members.
go.
they might share a little bit.
I don't need it. Just the Arlington, the Raymond Avenue School redevelopment project, they've finally gotten their signs act together. The ZBA approved variances, much reduced variances from what they originally proposed, but technically they need architectural review as well. So I think they look very nice. I hope you do as well. And if you do, we could just say formally that they're fine architecturally.
Anybody have any comments?
Yeah, I've got a question. On the second page, where they have the tenant.
Oh, that's not approved yet. That's
Okay. All right.
actually not for consideration. It's just the monument
Okay.
sign. I'm
All
sorry.
right, I'm
Okay.
fine.
Yep, just the monument
okay.
sign.
Just Arlington.
Yep.
Yep.
Originally, they had proposed one that had tenant panels on it.
Right.
ZBA did not want that.
ZBA.
Okay.
Exceed
The
that.
freestanding signs are already on the site plan, one at the project entrance by the driveway, and the other one is at the corner of Raymond Avenue with the eastbound arterial.
Any comments from anyone?
No, I think
No,
it
looks
looks good.
Yeah,
It's
looks
nice.
nice.
It ties in, the brick ties in with everything else.
So can we,
So I-
motion to approve as
I-
presented?
I move we accept architecture as presented for the signage.
Second.
Moved and seconded, called to question, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes,
1 abstention.
5 to,
All right.
5 to 0.
0 to 1.
5-0.
One
Okay.
abstention.
Yep.
Any other business?
I move that we terminate tonight's meeting.
Moved and
Second.
seconded, called to question, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes.
Thank you, everyone.
6-0, signing out.
Congratulations.
Have a good night.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Thanks, guys. Take care, George.
Safari up in Serengeti.
Yeah.